Wake up, Zambia.
Good morning. Good morning.
A brand new morning experience is coming your way. Introducing the Power Breakfast, where the queens of breakfast serve up the hottest conversations, freshest hits, and everything you need to start your day right. Catch the Queens of Breakfast every weekday from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Power FM and Dstv. And no, this isn't an April Fool's joke. It all begins April 1st. Power up your mornings with the Power Breakfast.
Power Breakfast.
Of the constitutional amendment that is on the voice of the people. Now, the proposed constitutional amendment recently unveiled by the government, which have generated mixed reaction across society, CSOs, prompting important discussions about their implications for Zambia's governance. Key proposals include reforms for the constituency delimitation, ensuring a fairer distribution of the constituency development fund, and so much more. And there are plans to guarantee parliamentary seats for women as well as youths to participate in certain decision making, and persons with disabilities to increase representation and promote inclusivity. Joining us this morning on Voice of the People, we do have Mr. Oliver Shalala, who is the United Party for National Development consultant. How are you doing? Welcome to the Breakfast Show.
Thanks, Fortrace. Thanks, Shekinah, and thanks for inviting me to this show today. And I'm happy that I made it on time. Yesterday I was late on my other show, so I didn't want to disappoint you, beautiful ladies and the listeners on Power FM.
Well, we appreciate the timekeeping.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we're gonna go direct into our topic of discussion, and would love to pose this question: do Zambians need this constitutional amendment?
Yeah, constitutions are a living document. They always have to respond to the current needs as well as the future needs. I think in politics there's a temptation to try and always meet the current needs so that you are easily re-elected, neglecting the future needs. But we are trying to do a balancing act as the United Party for National Development, where we look at current needs as well as future needs. So the Constitution of Zambia is now more than 60 years old, having been first enacted in 1964, and then every other maybe decade it's been amended. So it's been amended 1972, 1978, 91, 96, 2016, and there was even an attempt to amend it in 2020. So there's always that need when there are changes that have to be made. So for us, when you ask me now, do we need to make amendments, there are certain issues that have been left out for a long time that we feel we probably have an opportunity, and we also have the political will to push. And these are the ones that we are sponsoring. However, there may be other issues that the general public and other people may want also to have amended, but those will have to come in from the other side. But for us, I think we've been quite specific. The Minister of Justice, Princess Kasune, announced what she felt were the things we are going to sponsor as the UPND, and they also attached a roadmap, and based on those, that's what we are looking at as of now.
Now, Mr. Shalala, obviously a number of people, especially at the moment within Zambia, they would say that the cost of living, we're feeling the effect of it as it keeps increasing. Yes. And the main question when we first heard of the constitutional amendments is the UPND government prioritizing constitutional amendments over addressing the rising cost of living? Because if we also look at what the JCTR executive director, Father Daniel Mwamba Mutale, said, and he said that at the moment the estimate of the monthly cost for a family of 5 in Lusaka stands at 11,546 kwacha, 87 ngwe. And then we're hearing about constitutional amendments. So now for somebody who's struggling, what are the priorities like? That's our main question there.
Yeah, it's a very funny way of looking at it. Handling the cost of living and doing a constitution, those two are not mutually exclusive. It's not like, it's not the same. For example, I would give an example where we say, I'm going into a shower and then I'm wearing a raincoat. Yes, you can't do those two at the same time. But I can go into a shower and at the same time I'm answering a phone. So doing the constitution does not necessarily mean we can't handle the cost of living. Actually, unless we are saying there was only one budget and that one budget is specifically for cost of living, then we are shifting it now to constitutional making. But that's not the case. If you look at the budget that was presented late last year for this year, there was a component for governance and constitutionalism. There are also components for food. There was component for energy. Now, if you look at what we've done as the UPND since we came in power, if you look at cost of living, like you mentioned in Lusaka, it has risen to 11,000 kwacha for a family of 5. The average cost, amount in terms of what a family of 5 needs, I think, is now standing at 9,200, 9,400 for, I think, across the country. Some towns obviously are cheaper. Kasama, I think, should be the cheapest town when you follow that food basket. So if you look at what constitutes that food basket, mostly is energy, foodstuffs, and the other things like accommodation. But the major ones is energy and food. Now, on food, we are coming from a year where we had the worst drought in living memory. I think the last drought I remember, which was close, was 91, when we had to eat a lot of yellow maize, and we were given a lot of yellow maize. I think we had another one that by that time in 91, Guy Scott was the Minister of Agriculture, and we were getting a lot of food aid from USA, some fish given to us. Gen Z were not there, so I can describe a bit. They would give us dried fish that was frozen, and that was put in a lot of salt. So when they give you, you have to soak it for some time to reduce the salt, and then you cook tasteless food. And then we had a lot of yellow maize that came from South America. That period to now, we only saw another drought that bad last year, 2024. So you can imagine from 91 to 2024, this is when we had the worst drought. So there's been some work done in terms of distribution of inputs. This year, you never saw those videos of people saying we are sharing fertilizer in Medas and all that. It was well done. So we expect a better production of food. The rains have stopped, so in the next 1 month or so, people are drying the maize and harvesting. So we should expect the cost of living to go down in terms of foodstuffs. Then on energy as well, the same drought that affected food affected generation of electricity. So it meant that people had to rely more on diesel, for example, for energy, as opposed to using electricity. However, only 35% of Zambians are on the national grid, but there are subsidiary services that rely on that electricity. So, for example, if I want to do something in the market and the welder cannot weld, it means that particular service is increasing. So, on energy, there's a lot of work which the UPND has done since we came into power to increase generation. For example, the Kafue Gorge Lower, when we came, was only on 150 megawatts, but we've increased production there to 750 installed capacity. But we could not produce the 750 because of drought. So with the rains that we've had this year, there's a bit of an increase. So we should expect again cost of living to go down in terms of energy. There will be other interventions here and there, but like I said, these do not stop the constitutionalism happening. Remember, constitutionalism happens in the legislature, which is the National Assembly, where MPs are. And those guys, they don't handle the day-to-day operations of government, which is the executive, ministers and the like. Of course, some of the ministers are MPs, but most of the work that is done in terms of cost of living interventions are done by the executive and local government, which is like the councils and the like. So the two are not mutually exclusive. I've never gotten the logic, those who say, why are you prioritizing? It's not about your priority. It's about the two can go together. So in a nutshell, we are not prioritizing one over the other. They are all important. They all need to be done. They need equity attention from our side. When one is more current and needs more attention, it will get that much attention at that time.
We do have some bills to pay. We'll be back. You can also send us your messages, your thoughts as well as we get to speak on Voice of the People. We are handing you over the mic. You have to tell us what your thoughts are and your opinions on this matter. If there are any questions that you'd like to ask Mr. Oliver Shalala, you can actually ask him as well. You can send them on 0955 997 997 or on 0961 690 487. Let's pay some bills. We'll be back shortly.
Voice of the People, Monday to Friday from 8:45 to 8:30 a.m. Great morning conversations start here.
They say the world is what you make it. Now let's change the game and ask for more.
The 1991 Constitution, that's the one we are using now. Then in 96, there were some adjustments made. One of them was that traditional leaders can no longer stand for election as MP or something. I think it was to keep the traditional leadership separate from the political system. Though at the time, MMD was deliberately targeting the chief from the Western Province, Enyambo Eta, because he was the vice president of UNIP at the time, and he was very popular because he was very well known among Lozi people, and the MMD was very worried that there would be that support coming from there, so they had to clip his wings by changing the law. And then Kaunda also, who had lost elections in 91, was looking very, very popular. It looked like he would win back his power in 96. So they had changed the constitution and say, if one of your parents is not from Zambia, then you can't stand. So that was a change in 91. Then we moved to that's 96, sorry. Then we moved to 2016, where we had so many progressive inclusions done by the PF government. They did some very good work to a point where I think the current version of the constitution is the best version we've had in a long time. So we had a lot of inclusion, like for example, the 50% plus one, the running mate clause, where we now have a vice president who's elected by the people alongside the president, meaning that if the president is incapacitated or in any other way, then the vice president can take over, and they are legitimately voted for. Secondly, it also means that the vice president cannot be fired by the president. So it gives us stability. So apart from the running mate clause and the 50% plus one vote, which gives a majoritarian selection for the president, we had other ones, like for example, we maintained the term of office for a president to 5 years per term, and then maximum of 2 terms. Some countries like the US have got a different setup, it's 4 years by 2 terms. Russia has, I think it's 5 years by 2 terms, but not a life limit, meaning I can do 2 5-year terms, leave for another 5 years, come back again, do another 10 years, leave, come back. So there are different setups in different countries. So for us, at this particular stage, we are looking at things like the inclusion of women. The inclusion of women in terms of proportional representation, this thing has been proposed by people for all the governments. 1991, when we were changing the constitution, there were submissions made that there should be proportional representation in parliament, and women, the disabled, and the youth should be included in the constitution as such. But by that time, the UNIP government did not make that adjustment. In 96, that submission was made again. I can tell the Gen Z, Generation Z, that there was a push for gender equality and gender equity in 1995. That was when we had the World Gender Conference in Beijing. I remember my colleague Irene Lungu. She was the face of the girl child in Zambia. She traveled, I can't remember what age she was that time, 16, 15. She traveled to Beijing and she gave these big speeches. She's now one of the PR people in government in one of the institutions. So in 95, there was a huge push towards gender equality, gender equity. That's when we saw this growth now of this gender movement, like the NGOCC and other NGOs that came into being, Women for Change, Women in Law, and so many other NGOs. But to actualize that move into actual law, it hasn't happened. Most of the governments have neglected to include gender issues into mainstream politics. Normally we use them as a campaign tool, but in terms of making it legal, it hasn't happened. So, like I said in my first line when I walked onto this show, it was like, for us, we are looking at the current needs and the future needs. It doesn't have to be you have a good president who remembers women and then they include more women. We haven't done well as UPND in terms of gender. I'll be the first to admit. We haven't done well in terms of youth as well, and also disability. But we've done what we can do. We have a number of cabinet ministers who are female. The numbers are not very impressive simply because the current political dispensation does not allow for women to do very well, because it's a dog-eat-dog kind of politics where the ones with the money always win. So women are disadvantaged because of the nature of who they are. These are breadwinners. These are people who take care of families. I can live with my salary today, leave my family. I go with a girlfriend to South Africa and have fun as a man. A woman will rarely do that. A woman will take care of their family first before they can think of having fun. So by the end of it all, if we go and compete for politics, a man and a woman, a man is likely to abuse his money to make his politics work more than a woman. So by nature of that environment, it means women are disadvantaged. So this law, which we have now, is about allowing the competition to continue. It doesn't give guarantees for women representatives in parliament. So by changing it, and what we are proposing is to have a more representative. It won't cure all the gender issues. It's not a panacea, like once we change this particular clause, then suddenly everything will improve. No, but we are saying it's a step in the right direction. Maybe in the next amendment, there might be a better, again, improvement. But for us now, we want to say that there has been no government that was brave enough to increase in terms of gender activities in the constitution. So in the past, all the governments were ignoring that. I also have to praise President Edgar Lungu. When there was amendments made in 2016, he was very brave in certain things that he agreed to put in the constitution. So that bravery is what we need in leadership. So we also are brave enough to put this. So it may not be, like I said, a panacea to change everything, but it's a step in the right direction.
Okay. Now, you can be part of the conversation as well. We do have the UPND consultant, Mr. Oliver Shalala, who is in the studio for the Power Breakfast Show. The number is 0955 997 997. You can come through and pose some questions to him as well. Now, 2026, Mr. Shalala, we will be heading to the polls, and it's going to be an election time. Yes. So many people, so many CSOs have come across to oppose the constitutional amendments. The president was talking about making it equitable and fairer constitutional amendment, and you did talk about gender inclusivity, where women as well are standing in parliament, being MPs, and also standing in places of power. So why now? Why have you decided to make the constitutional amendment? What factors have influenced the timing of this initiative?
Yeah, I think let's put the record straight. When you say that CSOs have opposed the constitutional making process, I think the numbers are more on supporting than opposing. I'll give my details. For example, the issue of gender mainstreaming, the issue of having more women representatives in the parliament has been supported by NGOCC. So NGOCC is an umbrella body of more than 40-60 NGOs. So already just that consortium gives us a very huge number in terms of NGOs supporting the constitutional making process. Then we also have governance NGOs. I know that Law Association of Zambia, as well as the Chapter 1 Foundation led by Linda Kasonde, and others will even be on radio this morning talking against the constitution. But we have other consortium. For example, we had Gears, which appeared on one of the press conferences we had as the UPND. Then we also have Measures of Justice and Democracy Foundation. We have ZCLU, IPAC, we have ZIG Club, we have SACOD themselves, we have ADO. We have so many NGOs that are supporting. So I think in terms of numbers, the truth is that the numbers are on the amendments because of various particular amendments we want to make. Of course, there will always be people against. Of course, there will always be contention on a number of provisions. It's just the nature of the beast. First, as long as it's multi-party democracy, even if I say Fortrace is the most gorgeous person. Shekinah is the most gorgeous person. There will still be an opposition person who hates me, who's going to say what Oliver said is not right. So we have to understand that that's the nature of politics. That's the beauty of democracy. And that's as UPND, we believe we've left the field level. People are able to speak freely these days. Opposition can come in and sit in my seat today. They'll finish. By the time they are leaving this show, no one is waiting for them outside in terms of cadres trying to harass them. So there's been those changes. So it's normal for people to oppose and to say there isn't support, but I think the numbers show clearly the support is there.
And you can also call us up. You can ask your questions. That's once again on 0955 997 997. And you can also call us up on 0979 192 485. You can send us your text messages and call us up. We want to hear from you. You can ask whatever question you have as we are talking about the constitutional amendments. And well, Mr. Shalala, the timing of these amendments.
Oh, sorry, I didn't answer that one. I'm not running away. I tried to, I'm trying not to overtalk, so I give a chance to ask. So I forgot I didn't tackle that one. So the timing, there's no deliberate timing in terms of us bringing the constitutional amendments now. But I'll explain a few factors. There's been discussions in terms of us having, the constitutional amendment being done earlier. 2021, 2022, there were a number of discussions that we were having. But you have to also remember that some of the issues we are pushing, like delimitation. Delimitation is basically changing the boundaries of constituencies so that we reflect the current situation in terms of population growth, in terms of development, also in terms of need. So for example, we have, where we are right now, I'm not sure if it is Mandevu, it should be, I'm not sure if it's Mandevu or it could be in Samba, one of the two constituencies. Now, with time, population has increased. So you find that where we are staying today, this is Lusaka, but maybe across the tarmac is Samba. But with growth, it looks like one town. So we have to do boundary changes to suit the development, how the people are growing. And then sometimes it can happen that this is Chisamba across the road, but where's the bomber for Chisamba? It's like 80, 70 kilometers away. So for development to come here is difficult because the MP is too far away. So when we do delimitation, we might reduce Chisamba into two constituencies. The people who are living here closer to Lusaka have got their own bomber nearer, and the MP is different from the one on the other side. So delimitation becomes very important. But we couldn't do it 2021, we couldn't do it 2022 because by that time we were still using the statistics of the last census, which was I think 2010. 2010. So it wasn't possible. Okay, how can I say population has increased in Lusaka when there's no official data to show that it has increased? There was only estimates and projections. But now we have a census which we did, and the figures I think were just being confirmed recently. So we can now use those figures to make a proper delimitation based on the correct numbers. So census is one of the reasons we couldn't do it earlier. But now we have the census report and delimitation can be done. And the other reason was that if you look at the particular issues we are pushing, for example, the gender dimension and as well as the same delimitation, those have to be done before elections, because what's the point of us doing delimitation? We finish and then we say we are increasing number of members of parliament from the current 156 say to 200. If you look at other countries like Malawi, they have 205 I think members of parliament. South Africa more, Zimbabwe West I think to 250, and yet population for Zimbabwe is smaller than for Zambia. So for us to adjust those figures, it's important we do it before election, so that during election time we have adjusted. But if we say, okay, let's keep it until election, then what will be the point? We do the limitation, we change constituencies, but we can't implement, and we have to wait another 5 years to implement. That would be like a 10-year lag. So we have to move with the trends, we have to move with the current situation on the ground, and so that's the situation. Then lastly, on timing, the number 2 amendment of the 1996 constitution was done in 2016. If you noticed, we had elections that year. 2016. Before that, we had amendments in 1996. If you check again, we had elections that year. In 1991, we had amendments to the Constitution. We had elections that year. In 2020, the PF attempted to have an amendment which was going to be done in 2021. There was elections that year. It fell on the floor of Parliament, but an attempt was made. So there's been actually 72, 78, 91. All these amendments that have ever been done in Zambia were all done in election years. So for us, we are even better because we are doing it a year before election. So the argument about saying we are doing for the sake of elections is neither here nor there. Yes, some of the things like delimitation have to be done before elections so that we implement during election, as well as the issue of gender representation, disabilities, and youth. I was, for example, when it comes to youth issues, I've been a youth rep at the highest level. I was a board member for the National Youth Development Council, which falls under the Ministry of Youth. I used to represent Zambia at the United Nations Environment Program for the whole of Africa. I used to represent the whole of Africa as the only young person in the United Nations Commission for Sustainable Development in New York. So I understand the need for young people to be on board. And I can assure you, where I am today, I'm calmer. Those who know me, even when they see me on radio and TV now, they say, how come? Because I used to be very noisy, I used to be truant, I used to have all this energy. It goes when you've left youth. So we need that energy in leadership of young people, because they have this energy, they've got this drive, they are willing to work for less. My generation will not work for less. When there's masses, they don't do much. We can't have development where we only have one generation. We have to mix. So the inclusion of youth, disabled people, gender in the Constitution becomes very important, because that's the only way that we can have a congruent development that meets every generation.
And numbers to call us up on our 0955 997 997. But also you can send us your messages and your thoughts on 0979 192 485. But before we take your calls, we are going to go on a little bit of a break. Actually, we do have a call at the moment, so let us take it. Hello, good morning. Hello. Fine, thank you. How are you?
Madam Studio.
Tauka bwino mwauka Wanji.
Yo mwauka bwino. Wazeti watu mstudio mwauka Wanji.
Sina mbili pati.
Yo zina nga nimefrita, nipigina kwa misishay.
Okay, let's go.
Mwazera zina nga nimefrita nipigina kwa misishay. Wazeti watu mstudio, issue ya constitution hii, as now, Mazambians, Tifuna. Why Tifuna? Because the similar for the constitution, the previous election hapa. Then you are same person, you must shoot down constitution. Vana mta propose on constitution ya previous. Benzeri mamayusi, utati maketi ma constitution, ma constituency, benzemo. Amene mwendo mna shooting down, the uteni kutigwe, nagata mabwanji hapa. Mwere mwasipita Mazambians. High Court of Briefing, Malawi Kinga Kiribe the whole day. But as a test the Ghana of Malasipinunga was a keeper. That's why I was Vatula, Brown the President Muripe, then I'm going to propose to which they amend the constitution. I'm very much a president in Mauda. But from Zambia, Ghana, what we want is the cheaper meal. And the restitution, you may tell for the Papa. You know, I do Romaras Kirisi. To get us as a one. You know, we need to amend it. Because number one, whenever you come out and go and put down, what would you put with? But you then become a sponsor in fact your constitution. What the president, when I tell you about my youth, my comments here, what I'm saying, but my youth are, Nasanga, what you have said, then I'm going to form a Sunday constitution. AI. When I'm right, the president, when I thank you, like a super Sunday, but right now, we're at the Pilas and the Parliament of the Constitution. That's what it takes now. What on my foot, you have to do it. There's not going to go away.
Zikomo kwambiri boss.
Okay, you can also be part of the conversation. The number is 0955-997-997. So you can come through in any language that you are comfortable in, Gamunesa Mchibemba, or in Nyanja, or in Tonga. You can come through, and we do have the UPND consultant, Oliver Shalala. So we are talking about the necessity of the constitutional amendment. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
The first three words in the Constitution say, we the people. Okay, so when you say we the people, there's no class of human beings that can claim we are the people. The Constitution is very clear. It says we the people as the first three words in the Constitution. So everyone in Zambia is part of we the people. The three of us in here. So the way we are, the three of us, one of us can't claim we've refused the Constitution, and you can't say we have to change the Constitution. Everybody has to agree. Now, how do we agree in a democracy? It's the majority. So John may be against, but there are those that believe we have to change the Constitution and improve. And remember, when we have MPs, these are people that represent the people. That's why the Constitution is made in a parliament by parliamentarians, because each person in parliament of the 156 is representing people, and they were voted for by the people. So another individual that stands private, is a private individual, cannot claim to represent the people, but the MPs do represent the people. So the ministers, the MPs, these represent the people. However, we still have to have consensus way before we go to parliament. So there's a stage where John and others who are opposed can easily submit to the constitution making process and say we are against. So that will be in the roadmap between the period of May to about July. So there will be submissions that will be made. People will be invited to make submissions. So John can submit to say we are not happy with the timing, or we don't want this to be done by the UPND. We want others. We are listening government. If that's what comes, we'll adjust. But we know from submissions that we've received, even the Opposition Patriotic Front has written in to make submissions to the changes over the last 3 years. So there isn't just one person who can stand up and say we've rejected. Everybody has to contribute their views. That will be opened up in terms of consultation between May and June, July. So I think John is free to make those submissions. Then on butane, there were many reasons why the UPND stood against butane. And remember, butane did not fail at this stage where John is saying we've rejected, then we close. Yeah, butane went through all the processes. There were submissions made, there was drafting done, and it was taken to parliament, then it fell from there. So if the same happens this time around, well and good. Remember, the UPND does not have the 2/3 majority in parliament. So it's not like we can just wake up, take any law there, and automatically win. No, we have to literally convince the people that's the way to go. So we literally have to do a very good job explaining what needs to be changed in the constitution. We have to sell the idea. We have to also balance it up with what people want, not necessarily what we want. Yes.
You're gonna hold that thought as we pick up caller.
Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. How are you doing?
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
Yes, please. I just wanted to.
Hello, you're breaking.
Sorry.
You are breaking.
Yeah, I was saying that I was trying to highlight. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly now.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead with the
Okay.
contribution.
The thing is, right now, I think the economy is not really doing very well, and I think we should be putting much of our energy towards, arresting the hardships that people are having right now. And then also, my previous colleague who called, I think he mentioned about the timing. In as much as we can say it's transparent and it is beneficial to everybody, why now, when we have 3-4 years down the line, when this whole exercise could have been done? So this kind of raises some questions. What is the motive behind this change now? And then, so going forward, I think it's right now we cannot put much energy towards, I think, recovering our economy. I think that would be better than focusing much of resources and energy in doing this thing that will have little impact in people's lives as of now. I think that's what I think.
Okay, can we have...
Thank you.
Can we have your name before you go?
Sorry?
Can we have your name? Can we have your name?
Oh, John is my name.
All right. Thank you very much, John, for coming through.
Okay, thank you.
All right. The number is 0955-997-997. It is Voice of the People. We are talking about the necessity of the constitutional amendment. So you get to come through and be part of the conversation as well. You can come through with a voice note as well. You can go to WhatsApp and send in your voice note 0979-192-485 or 0961-690-481, or you can go through to our social media platform and leave your comment as well. Hello, good morning. You're through to the breakfast show. Hello, good morning.
Yes, madam.
Muli Wanji. Ipwino. My name is a bit bad. The minala on Fiachvemba. Nimo wana mnetumina kwisa. Kuchongwe. Okay. Ishi nani mwa nani?
Edward. Edward.
All right, ba Edward. Kutumwa.
Program, but you want to do a now.
Okay. All right. 0955-997-997. I think we can answer John, who came through with a question.
Yeah. The second John basically asked the question which the first John asked, and I think the second John may have missed the first part of the show where I addressed the issue of timing, but I'll repeat what I said earlier. So what I said was that constitutional making processes, and there's no timing where you can say it's good timing or bad. Even if I ask John now to come back on and tell us when he thinks was the best time, there's no best time. Secondly, I mentioned that part of the submission that is in the constitutional making process is to do delimitation. So we want to do delimitation of the constituencies. That could not be done in 2021 or 2022 because we didn't have census data. The previous government didn't carry out the census which was supposed to be done in 2020. I think you remember there was some issues of debt, who couldn't pay back debt, so there wasn't enough money by that time to do the census. So when we came to 2021, the UPN did some debt restructuring, so we stopped paying debt. The IMF gave us a bailout, so there was some breathing space, and we were able to do census in 2022, and that's what we are going to use in delimitation. So it was not possible to do delimitation before 2022, and the data is only coming out now, 2024, 2025. So we are able to do delimitation now. Secondly, we can't do delimitation after elections because we have to implement change of constituencies. We also have to do proportional representation for women, women, which is gender, youth, as well as the disabled people before elections, so that after elections, during the elections and after elections, we implement those changes. So that's why the timing is before, because some of the changes are targeted at being implemented by the election itself. So in terms of my last thought before we picked John's score was that the UPND does not have an outright majority in the parliament. We don't have 2/3. We have less. We have 80-something MPs. So we still need a good number of the opposition and independents to actually support us. How do we do that? Is to make sure what we present is not contentious, what we present cuts across. I can assure you today, Fortrace, that if you call, you can do an experiment, call any MP from the opposition, ask them about delimitation, all of them will agree that that's the way to go. If you ask even John himself, he will agree, delimitation has to be done. And on timing, again, the other issue is that delimitation has to be done every 10 years. The last delimitation was done in 2016, January. So January next year, it means we have to do delimitation. Otherwise, if we don't do it, then we've overshot. So The timing is both constitutional, also necessitated by the fact that implementation has to be done by the election, and so on and so forth. It goes back again to something I already addressed, which was the cost of living. So like I mentioned, it doesn't mean if you're addressing constitutionalism, you can't address cost of living. There are many interventions being done parallel to constitutionalism. But let me say something which actually connects constitutional amendments to cost of living. The moment we have delimitation, it means that we are pumping in more money in the local government for CDF than before. Because if we had 10 constituencies, every constituency gets 32.1 million quarter as constituency development fund every year. Now we have a situation where we increase from 10 to 20. It means we are doubling the amount of money that goes to develop the local economy. So with the delimitation, we are going to have a direct increase in terms of funds entering, going to the local government. Now, the president was swearing in the new local government minister yesterday,
yes,
having disappointed Honorable Gary Nkombo. There's been speculation about why he was fired, with a lot of people touching on CDF and how it has not done well. The president himself touched on CDF. He did not come out very open to say that was the reason why he disappointed Honorable Gary Nkombo, but you can get the hint that the president does not want failure in CDF. That is his baby. The previous government was giving about 1.4 million per constituency. That increased to 28 million, is now at 32 million per constituency. So constitutional making process actually increases budget allocation towards local government, and these are the ones that are seeing now the development of schools, the development of bridges, the development of roads, and even scholarships for skills training and all that at that level. So constitutional making process will contribute to standard of living and even the cost of living in the long run. Now, every action you take, especially at the level of standard of living, people think you can take an action today and standard of living will change within a year or two. No, it doesn't work like that. For example, one of the issues that we've implemented to improve standard of living and reduce cost of living is free education. Free education, you only appreciate the genius behind free education when the children that are in school now finish their primary, secondary, and they go to tertiary. When we have enough people that can read, understand, analyze, and all that. So the impact is not 3 years, 5 years, sometimes it can be 10 years. So some of the actions we take are meant for the future, like I mentioned, some are for now. It's easy for us to borrow, please the common man for the sake of elections, and then after elections, things go bad. We would rather take the more cautious route, which is to do what is right now, less impact, but more for the future as well.
Okay, it is Voice of the People. Let's talk to the people. Hello, good morning. Hello. Good morning.
Why, this is Dr. Brown.
All right, Dr. Brown.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Proud.
We are listening in Mandemo.
Condolences for the death of Shakasali of Voice of America,
He was my friend.
who used to call a lot.
But we are not yet told where was he died. The funeral, we only be told he got enough. So maybe they should update it through the media.
Okay. We want your input on our topic of discussion, the necessity of the amendments. What's your take? Hello? Okay. You can come through and be part of the conversation. The number is 0955-997-997 or 0979-192-485 or 0961-690-481. Now, I am going to address the elephant in the room. You did touch on the Bill 10. Now, the Law Association of Zambia has strongly criticized the amendment itself, labeling it as Bill 10 Pro Max. So, what differentiates this proposed amendments from the Patriotic Front's Bill 10? What's the difference between the constitutional amendment now and Bill 10 itself?
Yeah, I think the Law Association of Zambia is a club. It's an association for lawyers. So lawyers, a constitution is not a preserve of lawyers, no. is a law by the people unto ourselves. Lawyers don't handle they are not the owners of the Constitution. Yes, they understand the law better, they can interpret it much better, but they are not the ones that are the best people to always interpret the law. You will notice that even drafting a constitution is a very technical subject which is taught at Ziale and way beyond. And when we talk about drafters in this country, we don't even have more than 10 people that can draft a constitution properly. So that shows you that the majority of lawyers will just be like you and me, Fortrace and Shekinah. We understand it from that point where how does it affect my bread and butter? How does it affect my morning routine when I wake up, bath, go to work, that kind of thing. So they have the right as a club to whether they are happy with the constitution process or not. I think the record should be set where they stood with Bill 10. If they supported and they are against, it clearly shows you which side of their bread is buttered. Now, when you look at Bill 10 and the current constitution, there are a number of issues that are different. One of them is the issue of rights. Bill of Rights, they wanted us to change the Bill of Rights. The referendum failed. There was going to be a problem where the president could affect through acts the Bill of Rights.
Okay, I think we have to speak to the caller. Hello, good morning.
Again, madam.
Okay, Dr. Proud, you can tell us.
Proud. Hello, Dr. Proud, we can hear you.
Oh no, we seem to have lost him, but we do have another caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
I don't know the network, madam.
Okay, you can go. We can hear you. Yes.
First of all, dear President, as we can't comment what he said, the chief, no matter the swearing people, we do salute him. It's up to a PFO, but the president is a president, to come to court session, we want to appeal to Linda Kasonde, including John Sangwa. All those people, they are failure lawyer, who never produced anything. Where are you? Where are Mirumburungu was the liquidator of, is it KCM or keeping money? We never deposited that money. Where are you, Linda Kasonde? This John Sangwa, where we are being casted. The whole town is Makasis, one of us school and Navajo school. They came enough of Makasis. What do we say? What do we say about Uber? They take a more plans. Provide to a put him, people take a Mukanso. And I know, but that's why I'm on our Jara, Manote on Tarifa. And you take this message to our public president. We want to get a couple of material gamba with them. Wamena namanga nyumba pariru ena in the zakis. Tutufuna tuona ni kuraptana kulista. Because it is when Makasela wa PF. Zuko mokambili wane kwa Shalala.
All right, Dr. Paul, thank you very much for coming through.
And we do have another caller as well. Hello, you're through to Voice of the People.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Who are we speaking to this morning?
Alex.
All right, Alex, where are you calling us from?
Hello.
We can hear you, Alex. Where are you calling us from?
From Shalala.
Okay, go ahead with a contribution.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead with a contribution.
Hello. Umvela.
Timvela ba Alex.
Hello.
Hello, Alex, can you hear us?
Hello.
Oh my, okay. Okay, maybe just call us back again, Alex. You can also still call us up on 0955 997 997 as we get to wind down. Maybe if you can answer some of the questions or other comments, if I should say, that were posed by the callers.
Yeah, mostly Proud was just commenting to say that according to Proud, the constitutional process has to continue, and he was appreciating what the president is doing right now and all that. I think that's a comment. I don't need to comment much on it. But I was talking about the butane. There are a number of issues that were opposed, which we opposed in the butane, which we have not brought back. And chief among them were issues to do with, for example, the Bill of Rights. And also, there was an attempt to give the president more power than he already has. There is what we call the delegated legislation and delegated powers. The president appoints ministers and he appoints permanent secretaries. He also appoints commissioners. Now, commissioners exercise powers on behalf of the president. The president cannot implement the same powers at the same time. So Teaching Service Commission, for example, is the one in charge of employing teachers. Now imagine Buten was attempting to give back that power again back to the president, meaning that when Teaching Service Commission is employing teachers, State House can equally do at the same time. So that was going to be bound to be a problem when you have a problematic president in power. So those two examples are the ones I'll give on Buten. That one for delegated powers, where the change was going to give back to the president. Also, the issue of referendum. Instead of us having a referendum every time on part 3 of the Constitution, which is the Bill of Rights, there was going to be some changes where it is easier to amend them in future. So those are the things that we fought against. Now, these are not back in the current amendment process. Now, the use of the term Buten, and they call it Buten Pro Max, by Linda Kasonde, Lungani of Laz and everyone, is to show how bad Buten was. But they supported Buten. So there's a hypocrisy there, where they supported Buten, then they want to go to make it sound like it's a bad thing today. And now they are saying that the constitutional making process of now is Buten Pro Max. So, but like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean lawyers are always the experts. We have economists in this country. We've got journalists, we've got engineers, we have, painters, plumbers, bricklayers, and everybody. Everyone is important. That's why a constitutional making process involves everyone. And you can use any language that you want to use, Nyanja, Tonga, Lozi, Ila, Kaonde, and all that. Even, we have a lot of Shonas and Deweles who grew up in Zambia because their parents came here before independence, and they've been living in areas like Mumbwa, even where IH, Womboch, Samba, there are a lot of them. They are part of us. You can speak all those languages and present to the constitutional making. You don't have to understand legal jargon, like what is lacuna, what is what. You can just speak in the common language. That's when we have those few drafters, the less than 10 Zambians who can actually draft, like Madam Jala and others who are very good. So for me, as UPND, yes, we rejected Buten. We did not reject the whole document. There were some progressive clauses, but the PF made it impossible for us to support because they lumped everything together. It was like you take everything or leave it. So we had to leave it because of those small eggs that were bad within the whole tray. So for now, we have specific clauses, and most of the bad ones that were in Buten, we would drop them out.
Okay, noted. And as we get to wind down, I would say that you have touched on inclusivity, and so, but still, critics do get to argue on the fact that the process of the constitutional amendment now is lacking genuine public engagement and even inclusivity, which they are saying could undermine legitimacy of the amendments. What is your take on that?
That's a very fair comment. If we don't engage people, and if we don't get issues that it actually undermines the legitimacy of the process. In any constitutional making process, there are a number of values that we have to have. For example, there has to be honest, there has to be transparent in the whole thing, there has to be integrity in the whole process. So with us, we have, in the Constitution, there's no way, it's not clearly stated how you are going to amend the Constitution in terms of process. So under Mwanawasa, under Chiluba, under Arabia and others, there were different ways it was done. For example, SATA only came up with a technical committee that sat very few people. They picked provisions from the Vunga Commission, which went around the whole country. They picked provision from Mungomba Commission that went around the country. And then they put together some submission. Then they got some from other people. So that was done to save costs. In our case, there's been a roadmap which the minister has announced. And that minister, Honorable Princess Kasone, and that roadmap which the minister announced has some section where the public is free to come and submit, like I mentioned, between May and June, July. So there isn't truth in trying to suggest there's no inclusivity, because we have window to submit. Remember also that some of these that we're talking about, I'll be happy if somebody can stand up and say proportional representation has never been proposed by the public. It has many times under the Mungomba Constitution is there, Commission. Sorry, under the Vunga Commission is there. Even in Bhutan it was there. So it is from the people. The limitation, it is from the people and from the law. I don't know a single of the 15 provisions. For example, the other one on by-elections. We are saying that it's very costly every time to have by-elections. Someone has died. Why not just say the political party where they came from chooses somebody to replace rather than us spending money? Or the issue of nominations. Every time somebody resigns or dies, then we have to redo nominations. Maybe we've already printed the constitution and we have already printed the ballots, and then we have to spend tendering again to do it every time. So some of these changes, you can't argue and say they were not there. They were there even before we came. There were submissions made. What matters is whether by the end of the process we are going to have now submissions. So all these critics, let them come at the time of submissions to make submission. You can't stop a process before it even starts in law. You have to stop the process at two stations, which is one, during the submission stage, put your case and show that the majority of Zambians don't want, for example, proportional representation. Again, when it comes to parliament, again, the representative of the people, again, will vote at that stage. So those, not this stage where it's coming out like a popularity contest, like who's the loudest speaking about it. That's not the stage. This stage is about awareness, it's about everybody knowing there's this coming, and then we make submissions. And remember that the constitution can only be started by the president and the executive. You can't start changes by the opposition or parliament or judiciary, the courts. It starts from the president and the executive. Of course, there are laws that come from the courts, what we call precedents or case law, which are supreme, which are binding. But the constitution is the supreme body law of the country. So I'll give an example. The constitutional court ruled that ministers cannot stay beyond the dissolution of parliament. It's illegal. The constitutional court ruled against certain provisions which were not clear in the constitution. So now we have to amend the constitution to include those decisions into the constitution, because that's the supreme law. The law which comes from courts is lower, but once we make amendments to the constitution, then we are changing the supreme law of the country.
And there are so many proposed constitutional amendments we would love to touch on, but due to time, we cannot go the whole day. And thank you very much, Mr. Oliver Shalala, for joining us this morning for the Power Breakfast Show.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Fortrace. Thanks a lot, Shekinah, for calling me. It's the most beautiful studio I've been, and it's not a mean feat.
I did say that you need to take as many pictures as you
when
can.
I was at, I used to be the digital content manager at the Post newspaper. So I set up a radio there and a TV, but we were not allowed to air. So I know the work I did in setting up, but this one is super. Yesterday I was in another,
Standards, top notch.
I was in an impressive studio at Zamcom, but this one tops. Yeah, this one I think is the best I've been to.
We are blushing right now.
Yes. And I was also blushing before when I was told I was the first guest on this show. So I'm happy that you invited me. I hope you invite me again.
Exactly.
And I'm also happy that I was on time. I'm improving.
Yes, we need to work on time.
Yes. So thanks a lot for inviting me. We as UPND media team, we are receptive to calls anytime. You will notice that we pick up all our calls. We want to be accessible by everybody, to avoid being arrogant. We will listen to everybody in this country.
Well,
we are aware about the issues and we keep listening.
Thank you very much. We are giving you the power, that is voice of the people, right here on Power 91.3 FM. To join us tomorrow as well, and we will be touching on so many subjects. It is a Power Breakfast Show with the Queens of Breakfast, that is Fortrace and Shekinah. And you can also go to our socials on Facebook. It is Power FM Zambia, and you can be part of the conversation by sending us text or a voice note that is on 0955 997 997.
Voice of the People is a dynamic and interactive radio.
Wake up, Zambia.
Good morning. Good morning.
A brand new morning experience is coming your way. Introducing the Power Breakfast, where the queens of breakfast serve up the hottest conversations, freshest hits, and everything you need to start your day right. Catch the Queens of Breakfast every weekday from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Power FM and Dstv. And no, this isn't an April Fool's joke. It all begins April 1st. Power up your mornings with the Power Breakfast.
Power Breakfast.